回は5のテスト
This is JOJOVERDRIVE on the Grand Line.
Yes.
Yo ho ho, my fellow
A bottle of
crewmates.
rum. That's what we have. I've got mine right here with me.
Today, we are selling out. I mean, we're making One Piece videos.
One Piece video.
Because a little known fact is that we also have read some of it. As of this recording, I'm on chapter 400.
As of this recording, I'm on I finished Skypia. That's wherever Skypia ends, that's where I've read up to.
And so, the Netflix show everyone thought was going to be terrible and awful and no good and very bad was actually good and epic and awesome.
Yes, it was very epic and awesome.
Because we are in a hiatus month, we're going to celebrate this hiatus month by doing non-JoJo stuff.
Yes. How dare Rocky leave us in the dirt with the lack of content? We have to replace it with other things. Diversity, spreading out. Ah! All right.
So this is going to be more like kind of go with the flow. We don't know what we're going to get to, but we're going to just this is new for us.
Yeah. And if you hate this, let us know, okay?
Yeah, actually, unironically, let us know.
We
put out like 3 polls, and everyone was saying yes, review the live action. So
it's just enough of a split to where I'm like a bit concerned, but not enough to where I'm like, let's not do it. So
yeah.
But if you guys all of a sudden change your minds and are like, what is this trash? Dislike. I want then please tell us. Please don't wait in protest silently. But anyways, just for this episode, we're gonna go over the number of episodes that it says in the title. We don't know yet. So anyways, episode 1. They change a goddamn lot. Actually,
I know. I just want to
surprising.
preface it like overall in the show, like the number one thing I loved the most about it is how good the casting is for literally everyone. God. I can't think of a single person that I'm like, yeah, you probably you should have changed that. The only one for me is probably young Luffy, just because the accents didn't match up. But even then, it's like he still did a good job as a kid actor.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about stuff like that.
But like it was just the performances are really really good.
Yeah, this
and
as
you were saying, they changed a ton in this first episode. I mean, even having Nami in it at all was just like massive shift that I totally understand why they did in the translation to live action.
It's pretty crazy actually. The fact that the entire first chapter doesn't get done with till what, I think episode 3 or something.
3 or 4.
They spread out the initial. It's a flashback in the show, but in the original, it's just the beginning of the story. So it's not a flashback, which I 100% works. I think it's a great change. I think it fits better into an actual better paced story to have that kind of scene be more spread out, more paced. So there's more of a mystery, even though of course I had read it beforehand. I had read East Blue before I had watched the live action. For those new, which there's a lot of people new to this now, including me. The fact that the live action show came out is why I started reading it.
I know. I started reading it when they announced the live action show, and then I kind of got back into it.
I don't know why. I just kind of never really had any desire to read it, and also honestly, the art style was kind of off-putting at first. They have the weird big mouths and everything. I'm used to it by now. But then I got into reading it. I'm like, oh my, it's actually really good. What have I been sitting on this whole time? I was a fool. I understand why everyone gasses it up so much.
Yeah.
But anyways, episode 1. Does episode 1 have the scene with the Baroque Works guy and Zoro?
Yes,
I think yes, that's his first scene. I think. Yeah.
It's completely made up, and it's funny because the design of the Baroque Works guy, they based off of a SBS column sketch.
Yeah, what?
Because I've read the chapter with it. Where
that's really funny.
The guy just asked, what does the original Mr. 2 look like? And then Oda's just like, he just looks like this. And it's just like a stupid sketch of a face. The live action version.
Or whatever number
matched up. I think it was Mr. 2.
No, two's too high of a number. Two's the two.
Well, Mr. 8, Mr. 8. Then I think it was.
It's not that high. Yeah, because the higher numbers are like at the end.
You're right.
End
Higher
of
ranked.
Alabasta or whatever.
But regardless, he drew it, and so that was already a kind of a cool thing, and already hinting at Alabasta, which I think it's cool how they're seeding things in early on to like kind of like hint at stuff later a little bit, especially like end of the season, last episode stuff. But it's super cool. Yeah.
Speaking of seeding things throughout, the whole Kobe arc is as much bigger besides just a few cover special drawings.
It is technically still adapting the cover story. It's just expanding on it like just
tenfold,
crazily.
even more. It's like a total of, if you count each page as like a panel, it's like 7-ish panels or something total.
I think it's a little more than that, because you have the whole thing of Morgan like going on the boat and like escaping the boat, and then the both of them are like chasing after him. Yeah.
They expand on that, and adding on to that, they removed a bit of like Axe Hand Morgan. Like the fight's much shorter. It kind of wraps up faster, which I'm fine with. Universally, the fights seem like shorter, unless I feel like I'm going crazy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of filler in the original, just to like, you know what I mean. It's lengthened because it's
a lot of fights, which I both like and dislike, because I like the shorter fights because, you know, it gives us more time for like character stuff and things like that. But I also miss it because the fights in the manga, they feel like real like brutal death matches. It takes a lot to bring down. I remember reading the original stuff with Axe Hand Morgan, and it takes a while to bring him down. And later,
I mean, for me, what's remarkable is that the show changes so much, especially when you look at it 1-to-1, but it has like the entire essence of the story still. It doesn't feel like you're missing anything, really.
Oh, absolutely.
There's maybe a few things later that you can nitpick and stuff, but especially like you look at the whole first little bit here, and the entire thing is different. Like the girl in the bar is completely different from in it, where in the manga she goes up to Zoro when he's tied up already. That
whole section is completely changed. I'm still glad they have him being tied up and everything. That's a pretty iconic imagery, is him being tied up next to Luffy. But speaking of Zoro, I'd say one of the bigger changes character-wise, Zoro is made out to be a lot more serious and edgy than I feel like he. He's kind of more original in the manga. He's like that at the beginning, kind of, I feel more. But in the live-action series, it seems like they kind of keep him like that for the whole thing, which I'm fine with. And you can totally read it that way, like the dialogue. But it feels like when I'm reading through it, he feels a lot. He's not like Luffy lighthearted, obviously, and he's not like Sanji. Sanji's a bit more on the goofy side, but he's a lot more edgy. That's the only word I got here, honestly.
But you know that eventually they're gonna shift his character more, and they're gonna have him do the onigiri and say it out loud.
Actually, say it. Yeah, I do think it's funny how in the live action the whole joke is that he hates how Luffy like calls out his attacks or whatever. But then in the original, he does it too. So
he's kind of something I really like also about the show is that like a lot of other shows will just completely like lampoon and like make fun of and be like super self-referential and stuff and be like, isn't that so stupid or whatever. And like even though like Zoro kind of makes fun of the like move names or whatever, everyone still does it, and everyone still does it for joke.
And Zoro specifically is characterized as to that making sense. Exactly. It's not like Luffy goes like gum pistol and goes like, that sounded better in my head. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
That wouldn't make sense.
So awful. Or like I saw a thing where it was like, you know how Garp, how they have him have the dog hat on?
Oh yeah, whatever, seal or whatever it's supposed to be.
I think it's supposed to be a dog.
I can't remember.
But like that, it does look goofy, but because it's not like a Marine whispers to another Marine like, is that guy seriously wearing a dog hat? It's like you buy into it, and the whole show, by not like completely joking about all of that stuff, you actually like buy into the ridiculousness.
here's my JOJOVERDRIVE certified hot take. I think the visual aesthetics of the show are better than like the manga's art style. I think it fits.
You're like, that's like kind of insane.
It's kind of insane. I think having everybody look more realistic, really, it just gets me into the mood of like, these guys are like pirates and stuff like that. And I think it accentuates the goofiness of the situation actually by being more realistic, because in the manga everyone looks all crazy and like that. And eventually I kind of get used to it, right? But in this, it feels like their personalities more come to the forefront when their design is different. It like makes it better.
Yeah,
it sounds stupid, but that's just how I feel.
Super hot take. I definitely see where you're like coming from, and I think we both agree that the show feels more piratey at this point than the manga.
Absolutely.
And I'm really curious how they'll continue with that, because stuff like Alabasta, we both agree like it does not feel very piratey at all. Because you're in the middle of the desert for literally like 60 chapters, and then immediately afterwards you get a little bit of piratiness, but then you go to Skypiea, and again that feels a little more piratey because it has the cloud ocean. But
the cloud ocean is mostly just the setting so that they can like travel. It's not, they don't interact with like the ocean, the sky ocean.
Like funny enough is that I think that by them truncating the plot, it makes the show feel more piratey because they're spending more time on the ship too.
Yeah. Absolutely, it feels better. Even just stuff like in the manga, there's really good backgrounds and stuff. But I feel like when I look at the backgrounds in this show, there's a lot of like you see a lot of water, you see a lot of grime. It feels a lot more of like the vibe of it. And look, if you don't prefer that, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly acceptable. I prefer stuff like that. I like my pirates being pirates. Technically, the term pirate in One Piece is pretty different to like pirate in real life, and even the pop culture concept of a pirate is very different to an actual real life pirate. But I just think it works really, really well in live action, and they still keep like the good stuff. They still like for example,
every iconic moment they pretty much keep.
I'm even talking about like small stuff. I'm used to things like Dragon Ball Evolution and things like that. Stuff like Zoro having green hair is like crazy compared to that. Like Bulma in Evolution has like a single strand of blue hair, and that's how you know it's supposed to be Bulma.
Usopp doesn't have a long nose, so the show's bad.
Cancelled. I like how even on his like his flag that he makes, his custom flag, it has a shorter nose on it, like the cartoony one or whatever.
Yeah,
they do keep with it. Speaking of Usopp, we can go a bit out of order just because.
Let's just mix it all up. We're already talking about everything. We're going crazy here.
Usopp's entire JOJOVERDRIVE is we go crazy here for the newcomers. If you actually are finding us through this video first,
that's crazy. We didn't even say anything about that. If you're a newcomer, you should probably know that we mainly do JoJo stuff. So if you like that.
The plan is that during JoJo's yearly hiatus months, we're gonna branch out. Yeah, but we're not shifting to like this being the regular. This is a very temporary, every now and then thing, which we should have probably said earlier.
Treat.
Whatever, little treat. What I don't structure these things. We do what we want. We're pirates. We are the free ones here. Usopp. His whole introduction story is not completely changed, but it keeps the base elements and then just does whatever it wants with those elements. It's kind of crazy actually, and it kind of honestly makes Usopp like a little useless in this story, which I'm not complaining that much. He's at least at the point I am at in reading One Piece. He's been mostly just like a supporting, like he's there for laughs, for cool. He has cool moments and stuff like that, but he's definitely not like the main fighter in the spotlight. He's more like the engineer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in this, he does even less, and he has fun moments with his character. But in terms of actually accomplishing stuff in this story, he fights one guy in like the final episode, and that is it. And that's a bit disappointing. I would want to see a just a tad bit more.
He does get a ton more to do later on, but that won't be until
Yeah, that's not
season 4.
hypothetical season
So
4.
it's like, yeah.
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 How do you think? I think they could fit the entirety of Baroque Works into one season, right? That makes sense.
Oh,
Is that
easily,
gonna be season
easily.
2? I think so.
Yeah,
It seems to be about like they're doing about 100 chapters. It's like
yeah.
their approximate amount for this season. So that's what this
They'll,
is.
they'll probably get an extra episode next season to do Town too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which sucks that they had to cut for this season, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So I kind of want to backtrack a little bit to like episode 2 with Buggy.
Oh,
Because Buggy
Buggy.
is the goat. And his introduction of like ripping away the wanted poster and stuff, them doing that for all
my
of the
God.
pirates, it goes so hard.
Going further with the pirate aesthetic, as you were talking about, the wanted poster introduction sequences, completely like original. I don't know if the anime does. I have not heard of this before, so I'm assuming it's not. But they're really cool, and they're each like pretty unique. They show some character. It's very cool. It's a fun addition. I wonder what they'll do later, if at all, in like Alabasta, because they're not really characters with like a lot of them don't have like bounties like the Mr. Numbers and the Miss like Days and yada yada yada. Those members, they could do stuff like with that.
Yeah.
But going back to Buggy's performance is very, very good. Not what I expected. Like when it's not the line delivery that I thought Buggy would have. I'm not sure. I'm honestly not even sure what it would be like. But it wasn't. It's even hard to describe. But it's very good.
I viewed the character as like older when I read him in the manga.
Oh yeah, I didn't. It's about the same age that
I read him as kind of like an older loser pirate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of imagined him. I imagined him talking in a much more goofy voice, but he plays it very straight in the live action. He just happened, which kind of makes sense because he seems pretty he seems pretty self-conscious about like his nose and stuff. Why he would dress up like a clown is a bit weird, but it's funny. So I can excuse strange character decisions if it is funny enough. I'm glad we live in an era where TV shows like this can have a very good effect for having all of the chop fruit, how his body parts fly around and everything. It's a lot of fun. Even all the visuals in this are great. Can I just say, like, if this were a movie, I'd be like, this looks great. This looks like a great movie for 2023 standards, which some people might tell you is lower than like previous years standards. But I'd say there's still good stuff coming out. Have you seen Avatar: Way of Water? That's some pretty damn good stuff right there. It happens. Not everything is your volumes and stuff.
Thank God. Oh, can I just say thank God they did not use the volume in the show?
Practical sets. Oh my God. Oh,
looks
wonderful.
so good.
Absolutely wonderful.
So, in these episodes, we also get more flashbacks and stuff with Shanks. The dude that plays Shanks nails it.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. Especially when he's barely in the manga ever.
Yeah.
He has such a presence.
I always think it's so funny how in the like popularity polls in the manga that show up from time to time, Shanks is always like pretty high up.
Yeah.
And he's not in the manga at all, except for like so far, a couple scenes at most past the first chapter, and his like presence is just he's so cool. he doesn't do that much, but he just feels like a cool guy, and it's great. Super small tiny thing, but they changed they changed the flashback with Shanks a tiny bit in terms of where he loses his arm and he's like in the boat with him, but in the original they're just swimming in the water, which
it doesn't make sense to do it in the water.
That's a good change. It doesn't make sense to do it with water. I would have liked his arm being gone to be a bit more gory. I don't know, just a bit, but the gore in the series period is besides that, it's pretty perfect, honestly. It's just enough to where it fits like with the original, but not too far to where it feels like it's being like it's taking itself too seriously. It's like, oh, look how gritty we are with our blood. It's still under the category of like fun violence. But there's room for cool stuff. Zoro cuts Mr. Whatever in half. Like there's
that was
plenty
great.
of stuff. That was great.
That kind of sets the tone early on.
Yeah, that's a really good part.
So episode 3, Calidor and all that. I guess this is episode 3 and 4 both combined. We're talking.
Yeah,
about
it's the first like 2-parter.
Yeah. Again, I just think the dude that plays him nails it again.
It's insane.
He's like, he looks like Robbie Rotten in Lazy Town.
He does. I didn't think about that. I'm gonna think about that forever. What do you think about like the visual effect of his like super speed? Because I don't know how they do it in the anime, but in the manga, it seems like it seems much more like exaggerated. He's being fast, but in the anime, it just seems like he's teleporting. It's pretty crazy. Which I guess there's no way else to do it. But
yeah.
But it's pretty funny. I was watching this episode with my family because they wanted to see it, and they were like, oh, this guy has magic powers too. I'm like, no, he just unless I'm going crazy, he just moves fast. That's completely human ability. He just is very fast.
Let me look it up again.
No, he doesn't. I don't think. Kuro, what's his name? I don't even remember.
Kuro.
Kuro, yeah, Captain Kuro. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have any Devil Fruit powers. I'm pretty sure he's just a super good guy, right? He's super fast. That's like it. He's like Zoro.
I think so.
He's like Zoro. He's just really good.
Yeah.
And just concepts like that are kind of are very fun things that are very comic-y. Just the super exaggerated like human strength and stuff like that. It's not too much of a complaint. It's just like seeing it in motion as opposed to my own imagination. It's not exactly what I expected, but it's still very well done. And honestly, I think the best fight scenes are everyone with Zoro in it. They do the sword fighting so damn good in these. They do it such justice. It's kind of crazy actually. But yeah, that's oh my, I'm just trying to think. Okay, so this section of the story, they reworked it a bit. Do we like it more or less than the original? Because I can't decide.
This is the one arc I think I decidedly like less because two things. They cut out Django, which is one of the most fun side villains, and also who comes back later, so I don't get why they cut him. And also they cut Usopp Pirates too.
Yeah,
and I love that part.
It's just okay. One thing, period. It just feels like the manga covers a lot more like emotional details. It feels like we get the whole emotional arc with Usopp and his pirates and stuff like that. That all of that's gone and everything like that. Little details like it's just some small touch. I'm being the most nitpicky of nitpicky, but Kuro does like the thing with like his glasses or whatever, which I thought that was really cool, but they included. But in the show, they never like explain that it's because like he pushes up his glasses with his palm to keep the swords out of his hand, which I thought was a super cool like idea. I was like, oh, that's why he does that. Oh, that's great. But they never actually directly say it, so it's kind of just for a first time watcher, it's just kind of that whole cool detail is just gone. And I feel like just small lines like that I remember distinctly in the manga are gone. Like there was one originally in the Shanks flashback where he loses his arm. In the original manga, Luffy says something like, "But now you can't like be a pirate without your arm anymore." But he doesn't say that in live action. That line really like emphasizes the sacrifice that Shanks was willing to go through. But that doesn't, you don't really get that in the original. And to be fair, I think Shanks can probably fight perfectly fine with one arm now, and with the knowledge that I like know of by now and everything, he can probably fight perfectly fine. But it's just small little things like that I would have liked. But that is nitpicky. That is a crazy level.
Yeah, I just think specifically losing the Usopp Pirates really hurt it, because when you have 2 episodes to adapt to that entire arc, it felt too long. It felt kind of drawn out, and like you had 2 whole episodes and you had to cut that much from it, compared to like Barati, where they did a way better job of like moving stuff around and all that, and shifting it, but it felt more complete, I think. Yeah. But with that, because then Usopp's like, oh, I'm Captain Usopp, and obviously there's all the lies he still says, and stuff. But I just think it worked a lot better when there was his little kiddie crew.
Oh, and there's also that part, I don't think, unless I'm going crazy, they cut apart in the original manga when Usopp doesn't show up to say the pirates are coming. Everyone like kind of misses him or whatever in the original manga. I remember there's a scene where all the townsfolk are kind of worried for him. They're like, oh, where'd he go? I like that guy. He always said the pirates were here. That was kind of fun or whatever. They kind of just cut that, so I guess all the villagers hate him in the live action still.
Yeah. I do think it's a good idea to move the action from the beach into the mansion.
It's a much better set piece, yeah.
Yeah.
The beach was just a pretty arbitrary thing. Didn't matter that much. Still, again, would have liked Django. They could have easily fit him in with the other 2 members of the Black Cat Pirates. I don't remember.
I believe that's what it is.
Correct. No, but yeah. One big, super big thing we have not talked about is Garp. Garp's inclusion, which this is the only stuff I can't perfectly talk about, for me at least, because Garp is like a nobody at like chapter 300 something.
He only appears in the first cover story with Kobe, and he's not named in it at that point. And
I wouldn't even know that was his name until I watched this show, which unfortunately this show would spoil me of a tiny bit of stuff, but not like too big of anything.
It's not until post Enos Lobby that they do the whole reveal.
Really?
Of him being, it's like long time.
That's a while. I'm okay. That's crazy. But if I guess the writers were real big fans of Garp's character, and I guess it makes sense because he was seen with Kobe.
It makes sense from a drama perspective to do that,
and probably later it'll make sense, and we just don't know it. That's also that too. But I think they fit Garp in pretty seamlessly, honestly.
Oh yeah.
They kind of have the whole B plot is Kobe and stuff, and it fills up a ton of time. It's kind of crazy actually how much they could have covered if they didn't cover like the whole Marine subplot. But I like that they did, because the manga really is pretty one track. Like you stay with the main cast, and there's barely any like side cutscenes, I guess.
Yeah. The only side cutscenes are the cover stories.
Yeah, and those last like 2 seconds, and sometimes are just for like they're just for gags basically. So, yeah. Overall, the first few episodes are great. They're really damn good. Sometimes they're better than the original. Sometimes they're not. I'd say mostly they're not better than the original, but some I think the pacing is really better in the live action. Yeah. That's it's the pacing, and then the visual aesthetics are my 2 like favorite on point things about this live action, and I hope that this paves the way for more like live action stuff in the future.
Good live action stuff.
Oh my god, this after years, I know I'm not gonna act like this broke the curse or anything like that. There's been stuff. Like, there's been good
Speed Racer, man.
Speed Racer. Speed Racer broke the anime curse. Let's be real here, okay? If we're really talking here. But regardless, it's just I'm shocked at how good it is. I'm absolutely gobsmacked.
Yeah. So, I think that's we covered 1 through 4
And a bit of the future episodes, but like not that much.
Yeah, we will cover the rest. Even if this gets low views, we'll eventually cover the rest. We want to at least finish this up because we have thoughts on the Barati and Arlong. Oh, well, one little thing I want to say though before we wrap this up is that I like them putting Arlong in earlier.
Yeah. I completely forgot that happened. Arlong, and Buggy's even there. Arlong's crew shows up and they like interrogate Buggy or whatever. That's
because they cut Buggy's cover story.
Yeah. So and most of his crew. I mean, they didn't cut his crew, but they cut his crew's like the stuff they do. And the lion's gone, but whatever. No, but yeah, it's just it's great stuff like that could only be really done with like hindsight. Really. Now I know like okay, Oda is known for like foreshadowing and whatever, not like to I'd say an Attack on Titan extent or whatever that people like obsess over stuff like that. But there's still a lot of stuff leading up. But I feel like something like including Arlong in super early parts, I don't think the character was planned at that point in time. I severely doubt that. Small stuff like that, but it's just cool. It fleshes out the world a lot more in an already very fleshed out world. So that's I'm glad you remembered to mention that before we closed out this episode. But anyways,
what did you guys think
what
of
did you
the
think?
first ever episode of JOJOVERDRIVE on the Grand Line?
Yeah, we're on the Grand Line. We're even though the episodes we're covering are not on the Grand Line, we are on the Grand Line. So that's what's important. But yeah, what'd you think about this episode of our show, and what'd you think about the actual show we're talking about? You could talk about both. We will finish up the second half of this discussion. Probably in a couple weeks, I'd say. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
We're gonna do Q&A for so go to our what's it called?
Community post.
Yeah, go to our community post and post there. Yeah,
because we're gonna be answering a lot of questions. And it's been a while, so we've got some stockpiled. But anyways, thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoy. We'll probably do more stuff like this. Not too often, but occasionally. So be on the lookout. But you JoJo fans out there, there's still gonna be stuff. So don't you leave. I see you leaving, even though you've watched however long this video is. I see you walking away. Don't walk away. You'll come back here. You hit that subscribe button. You hit that like. You comment something as you're supposed to do. But anyways, thank you everybody for watching. This has been JOJOVERDRIVE on the Grand Line, signing off.